Hello, and welcome to this little project. I recently received a request to automate a spreadsheet that is to retrieve certain data from different tabs based on user selections. What you're seeing on the screen now are the goals of the project and the desired functionality of the spreadsheet. I will go through that in a minute. But first I want to ask, do you know what a doc joke is? It is a knock-knock joke with a cold. Now that there is comedy gold. You're welcome. All right, enough tomfoolery. The reason I'm doing this project and recording it is because in my trainings in Excel, the most questions I received were along the lines of, how long did it take you to get so good at Excel? How long have you been doing Excel? How did you learn Excel in such a way that you could create such projects? It was always frustrating to get that question for a couple of reasons. One, I knew the question was being asked so that the person asking the question could give themselves an out from improving their Excel skills. Well, if it took you that much time, then there's no way I can do it because I do not have that much time. Not understanding that most of the Excel skills I picked up during work hours when working on spreadsheets. Two, I knew the answer I could give them was not useful. Basically, I just do it. I started out like everyone else, and it takes time. It is not like I just picked up Excel and within 24 hours I was able to tackle these kinds of projects. Basically, I have tackled these projects and I do a lot of research and learning from working on the projects. And the things I learned from one project I can use in future projects. So the question is, why do I take on such projects? One, because I'm lazy, so I do not want to be inputting a lot of data if I can avoid it. Two, a lot of data input risks input errors. Regardless of how great of a typist or a 10-keyer you might be, there's a chance you'll transpose numbers or make a typo. And even if that happens only 1% of the time, it is enough to cause problems in whatever analysis or report you're building. So there is a desire to automate data as much as possible. And three, I'm always thinking, there must be an easier way to do this, or there must be a way to do this so that I'm not doing rework repeatedly. Which gets back to my first point, which is that I'm lazy. Being lazy, I do not want to do the same work more than once. Every month, I do not want to create a monthly report from scratch, inputting the data for that report, as well as typing in all the words needed. Even copying the previous month's spreadsheet and just inputting the data, there's still a chance for errors. For example, if you have dates in the spreadsheet or names that change and you do not change those values, you have created unnecessary errors. And those dates and names could be in the header or footer, which you do not see in the normal view until you print the document. And then you might miss the error in the header or footer once you print it because at a glance it looks right. Then you hand it out and people say, hey, why are you giving us April's data? And why does the data in this report for April look different than the report you gave us for April last month? What's going on? Are you incompetent? Are you hiding information from us? Are you lying to us? Etc., etc. So with that in mind, the goal is to build a project that addresses and reduces the risk of such errors occurring or from having to work lots of long hours manually preparing reports that can be automated. And doing that over my career, that is where I picked up the skills. Again, during my Excel trainings, when teaching different formulas or techniques, it was frustrating to see students fail to see a formula and think, oh, here's this formula. How might I apply it in one of my spreadsheets? There was a failure to see how the parts could fit in the whole. They would simply look at each formula separately on its own in the training and then discard it as useless because I didn't show how it could be used in their accounts payable spreadsheet or their payroll spreadsheet, or their gambling tracking spreadsheet, or their analysis of government economic data spreadsheet, or whatever their specific spreadsheet was. And they would continue to create spreadsheets the hard way. With all this in mind, I thought I would take this project, which I've not really thought much about. I just received it. I read the requirements and I decided that, okay, I'm going to record myself completing this project step by step from the beginning to the end without any pre-research about how to solve any of these problems or doing any pre-planning or thinking about the project. And if I make mistakes, you'll see me make those mistakes and correct those mistakes. Hopefully, in an effort to show that as you are creating these kinds of spreadsheets, it is okay to make mistakes. You might make mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes. The key is you just fix it. it's not a big deal to fix it. Or to think that the only way you're going to be successful in Excel is at the moment you start this project till when you are finished, that it will be completely flawless and that you are not going to make mistakes. Or that if you think you are going to make a mistake, or you're not sure how you're going to do this one certain thing at this moment in time, then you cannot get started as you have judged that it is going to be a failure or a mess. Having said all of that, I hope I do make mistakes. Otherwise, I'll fail in that part of the project. So I hope I make mistakes so you can see me make them and then correct them. And I'm hoping that if you follow me through this project, that it will help you to realize that you too can create such a project, and that you might see something that you realize that you could use in a spreadsheet that you're using or thinking of creating. So there is all that rambling setting up what this is about. So let's get to it. So as you can see on the screen, the goal is to make a payroll calculation sheet that will work for every classification. In this case, classification meaning job classification. With each classification, there is a salary schedule, so the payroll calculation sheet would need to work with each of those different salary schedules. The functionality. So it should involve multiple lookups to multiple differing salary schedules, and each salary schedule is on a separate tab according to the spreadsheet that was sent to me. Number 2, they need to update salary schedules by downloading them from the payroll system. Number 3, choose a salary schedule and then select the appropriate salary schedule tab. From that tab, select the range and step and the amount due, and then return the values from step 3 into F7, which is here, from this information in M5 through M7. And then number 5, they want to add calculation formulas for every add-on in the tab and have them in a list in column F. So you can see the F here, column F here. So 6, based on the value from step 5, pull the corresponding formula into column H, which is here. One of the complications is that the add-on information must be in text in the add-ons tab, but need to actually do the calculations with the data. And that's because in the payroll software that this person is using, when they enter the formula into the add-on section of the software, they can't enter it as a formula. They enter it in a kind of a comment section as a text. And then when they download that from the payroll system into Excel, it is there as a text, and they need to convert that to an actual working formula. So when we say add-ons, what do we mean by that? So basically every employee receives an amount of money, a monthly amount or hourly rate, whatever it is, whatever increment that comes in, based on the salary schedule that they're assigned to and whatever their range and step is, which usually means how many years they've been with the company they will step, or how many promotions, etc. have been given. It's what their range and step means. That gives them their base pay. In addition to that base pay, they could receive additional pay. It could be because they did a special project. It could be because they have a special degree. It could be because they have a special certificate. It could be because they've taken additional training. It could be that they actually are receiving a dock, meaning that their payroll is being docked a certain amount of money because of something that has occurred, like maybe they've missed some time and they didn't have sick time or some other kind of time, vacation time, etc. They just missed time, and so therefore their pay needs to be docked. It could also mean that they've worked extra hours, and so they're getting overtime pay or something like that. So that's what add-on means in this situation. Okay, so having gone through what the goal is and the desired functionality is, then we will go ahead and start looking at the spreadsheet. Before we get into looking at the spreadsheet, I just want to say I think there are 2 ways that we can solve this problem. One is by using only formulas, and the other is using macros or VBA script. This demonstration here is going to be formulas only. So if you're interested in the solution that involves VBA script or macros, I'll put a link to that at the end of this video. So this format is the format that it was given to me in by the user. So they created this format, not I. You can see here salary schedule range step from the Word document, this section here that they would change, and their changes then would update this amount due amount. And then we look down here under other earnings, and this is where they want to be able to pull these formulas from the add-ons tab over into here, and they have to be in a text format in the add-ons tab. They want to be able to convert that to an actual formula and use it. Let's see how many tabs the spreadsheet has. If I right click here, you can see that's quite a few tabs. Each of these tabs, my understanding is that each of these tabs is a separate salary schedule except for this add-ons tab here. When we look at the add-ons tab, we can see that this is already in a table format. When we look at the salary schedule tabs, we can see that these are not in a table format, and some of them are in different formats than others. And I'm not sure why that occurs, but that's just the way that is. What I would do if this was my spreadsheet is I would actually create one tab that had all of the salary schedules in one table, instead of having all of these different tabs for different salary schedules. That would make it a whole lot easier to work with whenever we're working with just formulas, as opposed to trying to create very complex formulas that, depending on what the selection here is, then I have to say, okay, probably a lot of if statements. If it's class H, then you got to go to the class H tab. If it's the trans P, then you got to go to the trans P tab, etc. So that's what I would do. Now, it's also my understanding that they want to be able to download this information out of their financial system, their payroll system. I'm guessing that they each come down as individual salary schedules, that you can't download all the salary schedules at once into one big Excel data dump. Just to be clear, when I say I'm guessing or I'm assuming that if I was actually going to do this project for the person who requested that I look at it, I would find out that information that I'm guessing or assuming about. But in this situation, for this demonstration on how to do this project, I'm just going to make some assumptions based on the limited information I know, based on what they told me. Now, when they're downloading this information, and we're assuming again that each salary schedule needs to be downloaded by itself, again, what I would do is I would create that one single tab, and I'm going to do that here. And then I would just copy and paste all of the information from here over into that one tab with all of the salary schedule data in it. And it should be pretty simple to maintain. You can simply delete the information. So for example, if I was downloading this STIP non-salary schedule, I could easily go into that one tab and delete it, that data for the STIP non-salary schedule from that one table, and I can simply add it. It's not a big deal to do. And what I would do is, once I created that single tab with all the data in it, I would get rid of all these additional tabs. I'd clean up the spreadsheet, get rid of all these additional tabs. And instead, each time I was downloading the salary schedules, I would download those into a separate spreadsheet. I would save that file so that the file name is representative of the date that I downloaded those salary schedules. And then I would copy that information and paste it into the single table with all of the data. That way, I would always have that historical data of what those salary schedules were at a given point in time when I did that download. I have found in my career that having that kind of historical data is very valuable. And so that's what I would do. So we're going to go ahead and do that. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a single tab. So I'm on this one. I'm going to right click down here. I'm going to create a copy. And I'm going to call this salary schedule data. Now I'm going to come up to to here and I'm going to insert 4 rows. I'm going to make this a table, and you can choose whatever format you might want to use, whatever your preference is, but I'm just going to take that. Then I'm going to come in table name, and I'm going to name this TBL salary schedule data. The TBL is just a naming reference that I use to indicate that it's a table, so that whenever I go into the name manager here, as you can see, that this name tells me that this is a table, as opposed to a range or some other kind of named item in the spreadsheet. And you can see I have a table 1. I don't want a table 1, so I'm going to change that. Now I can change that table name by coming into here into edit and just changing it here. But I don't necessarily want to do that. I'm going to come into here. I click anywhere in the table. It activates this table design tab. I come into table name, and I'm going to name this TBL add-ons. So now when I go to the name manager, you'll see I have the table add-ons and the table salary schedule data. And this is also good because it tells me that this is on the add-ons tab. This tells me it's on the salary schedule data tab. Now I could see that by looking here as well, but instead of always having to mess with the width of this and looking at these different things here, I could just look at this list and see, where the table is located. And the other benefit of doing this with the naming reference is it will sort according to the names given. So whenever I create a named range, I start those names with an R so that they all sort by themselves. If I want a lookup field, then I start that with, or lookup named range, then I start that with the LKP underscore so that they all sort together. So just something I do, and you can have your own naming convention. I find that it cleans up a lot of clutter and makes it more efficient to work on. So I need to create some additional columns, and this column name would be Sal Sched. And that's so that I can distinguish between the different salary schedules, since I'm going to have them all on the same, in the same table now. So this was the stip none. And I'm going to say Control C, Control Shift down arrow, Control V. And then I need to create another column called key. And this is going to equal the salary schedule name and the row and the column. And notice it auto-populated that. It gave me a little pop-up there before I widened the column that would allow me to tell it to stop doing that if I didn't want it to do that, but I do want it to do that. So the reason that we're doing this is this way we're creating a unique value for each row in the table. If I need to find a salary rate value for the stip non salary schedule, I don't have to first find stip non, then find COV, and then find 1 to get this. I could just find stip non COV1. So that's why we're doing that. And now just to demonstrate, let me come into here, find something with a few ranges here. And I'm going to paste this into here. And this is going to be the trans P salary schedule. And let's see, let's do the sub CL. Control Shift down arrow, Control Shift right arrow, Control C, come back over here, do Control down arrow, Control V, and this is the subs CL. All right, so I did all that just so I can demonstrate how quick and easy it is to add and delete data from the table. So for example, if I was wanting to update just this trans P salary schedule, I come into my filter here and I click on a select all so it doesn't select all, and then I click on my trans P, and then there's just the trans P. I highlight all of these and I say delete entire sheet row. And then I come back into my filter and I say, and there's that. Now I wanted to add that data back in. And so I do control down arrows so that I'm at the bottom, come back into my trans P, which is the data I just downloaded, we're assuming. Put that in there, trans P, control C, shift down arrow, control V, and I'm done. So that's how quick it is to update the information. But now, if the number of rows haven't changed in the trans P salary schedule, what I would do is I would just simply, I'd come into here and I would, again, select just the trans P. And then I would just come into the trans P, do a control C, come over here, do a control V, and then that way I'm not having to actually retype in the trans P. And this would have overwritten all of that data that had been there before. And again, that's assuming that we haven't added any more rows to the trans P salary schedule. If we did, then more than likely what I would do is I would delete it out of the data and use the first method of replacing the data as I showed you. So now that I've showed you that, I'm going to go ahead and take all of the other data from the other salary schedule tabs and put them into this one tab. So you've seen how I did it, so you don't need to sit here and watch me do all that monotonous work. It's not going to add any value to the video. So I'm going to do that offline, and when I'm done, I'll be back. I'm back. And I have gone through and added all of the different salary schedules. You can see them here. And then I hid all of the other tabs. Again, if this was my spreadsheet, I would delete those tabs. The next tab I would create would be a reference tab, and I call it a reference tab because this, what we would put here in this tab would be all of kind of our lookup ranges, those kinds of things, where tables that kind of feed our formulas. One of the things we want to be able to do is limit this salary schedule selection based upon the different possible salary schedules. We need to pull the data from here into a list that we can use for our data validation. And I think that would probably be all that we would want to do. Looks like the user hid this column. Yes, no. Not sure why they hid this column. But since they hid this column, I'm thinking that they probably are not going to be using it. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a key here based upon the values here. So this is what we're going to do first is we're going to name these different cells in ranges. So this is going to be the R salary calc template. R meaning that it's a range as opposed to TBL meaning it's a table. Salary calc template period salary schedule. Select it. And the reason I name it here, salary calc template, is that way then I know again what tab it's on. This we're going to name our salary calc again, so I know what tab it's on. Range, select it. And this one we're going to call our salary calc template, so I know what tab it's on. step selected. And then here I'm going to say this is equal to our salary, so that's why I named them the way I do. As you can see, just by typing in the RS, which would be the RS salary, and if there were more like RSQ or more functions or formulas with RS, etc., then I just do RSA, and it would again limit my choice to here. So it makes it easier when I'm filling out formulas and code, those kinds of things. It makes it easier to find what I'm looking for. And so in this case, I want the salary schedule selected. I double click there. I say and our salary range, and I can tab. I don't have to double click. And RS for salary schedule select, salary calc template. And I come down here and I do the step select. So this is going to be our key. I'm going to highlight it in yellow. And here I'm going to type in this. Key for formulas. Do not delete. We'll put that in bold and red. And then we're going to name this our salary calc template, so I know what tab it's on. What should we call it? Selected key. That should do. And then I'm going to hide this. Here I'm going to name this our salary calc template, so I know what tab it's on. Amount due. Oop. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to type in a couple instructions, and this is why I insert these rows here. And in fact, I think I'm going to insert one more row. Yeah, maybe one more. So one of the things we don't want to happen is for this formula to get lost. And what can happen is if they come in and they select all of the data like this, and they say delete entire table rows, now I've lost that formula. And if they didn't pay attention to the formula before they deleted it, they could lose it for good. It used to be that way. I think now, though, that in current Excel, if you paste in the data, new data into this table, it will remember this formula and put it back in there. But just to be safe, we're going to put a notation up here that tells them what that formula is. So we're going to say formula in key column is, highlight this, Control C, and so now if this formula over here gets deleted in any way, overwritten, whatever the case may be, because you may have somebody who's not familiar with tables or doesn't pay attention to this. Maybe they don't know how to use Excel that well, or maybe they just don't pay attention to the fact that this is a formula, and they come in and type over it. And then somebody later is like, well, why are these all typed? They should be a formula. They can come back into here, or if it's deleted for whatever reason, they can come into here, copy this, and paste it into here. So that's why we did that. And then we're going to say value in sal schedule column is typed in based on salary schedule. Appropriate to the values in the other columns. That way they just have some notes that tells them more information about these two columns. Now this is where I'm going to stop because we're probably running a little bit long in this video. And what we've done so far is we've put all of the salary schedule information into this one tab and this one table. We've created some range names. We created a key. We added some columns here, created a key here. That's pretty much all that we've done so far. And we'll call it quits here, and hopefully you'll join me in the next episode.